So here I was on the train on my way home on a Friday evening, and all of a sudden the train has just stopped moving at a station that I've never heard of in my life. And it turns out that there has been a fire on the tracks between the station I was at and the next. So to pass the time, I decided to start a conversation with the person next to me. And within a couple of minutes, the conversation shifted into much deeper topics about life. Basically, a lot of the stuff that I talk about on this channel. And now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure they may be watching this video right now. Then around 15 minutes or so went by with no signs of the train actually moving. And this person started to check their phone on a potential Uber ride home. And I said as a playful joke, "I'll go if you go," as I mentioned that I wouldn't mind splitting the costs. But instead, they kindly offered to pay for the Uber ride home for the both of us. And honestly, it was a very nice gesture, and I did thank them for it. Especially the fact that I was technically a complete stranger going with them. But the next day, I had this weird mental itch. Almost like I had to repay this other person somehow. And it's not because they asked me to, but because I didn't want to feel like I was taking advantage of their kindness. If you see what I'm saying. And in hindsight, they most likely forgot about this event and went about the next day as normal. Well, sometimes we don't try to pay someone back because they need it. But a lot of the times it's because we've got this uncomfortable feeling in our chest that we want to fulfill. And sure, there might be an element where we want the other person to know that we acknowledge and appreciate their gesture. But I would actually argue that it's more so to maintain this self-image that we have in our own minds of the fact that we're good people. And this entire psychological phenomenon is deeply rooted in human biology. And there's a psychological term for it, which is called the principle of reciprocity. And it's one of the key ideas from Robert Cialdini's book called Influence, which I would highly recommend, by the way. So essentially, the principle is when you give someone something, even if it's something small, or even if it's something that you've just never even asked for, you would almost always have this subconscious urge to return the favor. And in some cases, overcompensate without you even realizing it. And it's the reason why those marketers strategically give out those free samples, or even those apps that give you that free trial, even though you never even asked for any of it. And even when you know about this tactic, it still works on a subconscious level. But this doesn't just happen in sales. It probably happens a lot more often than you think in your friendships and relationships. And maybe you may have heard someone say, "After everything that I've done for you." And that phrase, it's a guilt trip. It's almost like slapping a price tag on their past kindness. And it's almost like a contract that you've never agreed on, but all of a sudden you're stuck in it. And this is where people can cross a line between generosity and manipulation. And in my opinion, it's important to be self-aware when these things come up, especially when something is offered to you for free at face value. And it's on you to build that backbone and set healthy boundaries. Because you saying no doesn't necessarily make you a selfish or a bad person. And here is something that I've also realized about myself. A lot of the times, we also do this to other people. For instance, when we help someone out, we might be quietly hoping that they'll remember. Or even when we do something nice, we might be eagerly waiting for some sort of social feedback, whether it's recognition or validation from the other person. And sometimes we keep a mental score in our minds, which is a transactional and a pretty toxic way of viewing social interactions. And I've been guilty of this because I can remember certain periods of my life when I was younger, where I would do certain actions not necessarily because of kindness, but rather I wanted to be seen a certain way, whether it was being liked or remembered. So nowadays, I try to ask myself this simple question of whether I would still do the action if I got nothing in return. No thank you, no favor, just nothing. Now, if the answer is yes, then I know for a fact that I'm doing this particular action out of true kindness. Because true generosity isn't supposed to come with a price tag, if you get what I'm saying. Now, I want to go a little bit deeper into this entire concept, because this has been used quite strategically throughout history. And I personally think that it's good for you to know. So for instance, this is kind of explained in Law 13 of 48 Laws of Power, where he explains that when you want someone to help you, you always want to appeal to their self-interest and never to their gratitude. And essentially what that means is people don't actually like that feeling of owing someone else, but rather if you can show them what's in it for them, they're more likely to comply. And let me give you a historical example so that I can explain this entire concept a lot easier. Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the United States in the 1700s, was once faced by a political rival that he wanted to win over. But instead of him doing the favor, Franklin instead flipped the script and asked him for a favor. He wanted this rare book, in which he borrowed it and returned it with a thank you note. And this simple act alone made the rival like Franklin more. And there's actually a term for this called the Ben Franklin effect. It's essentially when someone does something for you, they subconsciously believe that they must like or respect you. So to bring it back to you, what can you take away from this video? Now the first one is just to let yourself receive without feeling the guilt. Because remember, you don't have to repay every single person that does a good gesture. And just being sincere in your appreciation is more than enough. And the second one is to give without expecting anything in return. And with this, you want to check whether your intentions are genuine. Now, the third one is to appeal to people's self-interest when you're asking for help. And this way, the interactions are a lot cleaner and it's empowering for both sides. I appreciate you watching the video, and if you're still interested, you can check out one of the videos that are popping up on screen right now.